Men are moved by two levers only, fear and self-interest. Napoleon Bonaparte, they tell you everyone is inherently good. That deep down people want to help, to build, to cooperate. That's a comforting lie. A dangerous weakness if you believe it. Observe human behavior without the sugar coating. See the patterns that emerge when the mask of civility slips. You will find a landscape of self-interest, of subtle betrayals, and a hunger for power that rarely sleeps. This is not cynicism. It's realism. The foundation upon which you build your own strength, your own protection. We are not here to reassure you. We are here to arm you with the truth, however uncomfortable. The world doesn't reward blind faith. It rewards those who see it clearly, who understand the currents beneath the surface. Those who believe in inherent goodness are often the first to be exploited, the easiest to be manipulated. Their naivete becomes a weapon against them. The wise man understands that human nature is a complex equation, a mixture of light and darkness, and he prepares for both. He doesn't expect virtue. He anticipates ambition. He doesn't trust easily. He observes relentlessly. He cultivates his own competence so that he is never dependent on the unreliable goodwill of others. This is the path to true independence, not a naive belief in the inherent goodness of humanity, but a clear-eyed understanding of its potential for self-interest, manipulation, and even malice. Arm yourself with this knowledge. It is the first step to mastering your own destiny. The human mind is not a blank slate waiting to be filled with noble ideals. It is a battleground of competing impulses, a theater where reason and emotion clash for dominance. To navigate this internal landscape, and by extension, the external world, you must understand the fundamental drives that shape human behavior. Consider the desire for status, the relentless climb for social dominance. It's not about inherent malice, but about securing resources, attracting mates, ensuring survival. This drive manifests in subtle forms: the carefully crafted image, the strategic alliance, the ruthless climb up the corporate ladder. See it for what it is: a primal urge dressed in modern clothing. The constant striving for more, for better, for recognition. A desire that can motivate great achievements but also lead to devastating betrayals. Then there is the power of envy, a corrosive emotion that festers in the shadows. It is not simply about wanting what another has. It is about resenting their possession of it. Envy fuels gossip, sabotage, and even violence. It's the silent killer of ambition, the poison that cripples potential. Recognize it in yourself and in others, and learn to deflect its influence. Understand that envy is often a sign of insecurity, a reflection of one's own perceived inadequacies. The truly powerful do not envy, they create. Another critical element is the human capacity for self-deception. We are masters of rationalization, capable of justifying almost any action, no matter how reprehensible. This ability to distort reality protects us from the harsh light of truth, but it also blinds us to our own flaws and vulnerabilities. We create narratives about ourselves, stories that paint us as heroes, victims, or martyrs. These narratives become prisons, limiting our ability to see the world as it truly is. Challenge your own assumptions, question your own motives, and be willing to confront the uncomfortable truths about yourself. Self-awareness is the ultimate weapon against self-deception. Understand that people will always act in their own self-interest, even when they claim to be acting for the greater good. This doesn't necessarily mean that they are evil, but it does mean that their actions are always filtered through the lens of personal gain. Expect it, anticipate it, use it to your advantage. Understand the underlying motivations that drive their behavior, and you can predict their actions with greater accuracy. The pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain are also fundamental drivers. People are drawn to experiences that provide gratification, whether it's the satisfaction of a job well done, the warmth of human connection, or the indulgence of physical desires. Conversely, they will go to great lengths to avoid pain, both physical and emotional. This principle can be used to manipulate and control others. Offer them a reward and they will follow. Threaten them with a punishment and they will comply. But be aware that this is a dangerous game, and that the consequences of miscalculation can be severe. Understand that human beings are inherently social creatures, wired for connection and belonging. We crave acceptance, validation, and a sense of community. This need for social connection can be a powerful motivator, driving us to conform to group norms, to seek approval from authority figures, and to sacrifice our own desires for the sake of the collective. But this desire for belonging can also be exploited. Cult leaders, demagogues, and manipulators all prey on this fundamental human need, offering a sense of belonging in exchange for obedience and loyalty. Be wary of those who offer easy answers and instant gratification. True connection is earned, not given. Finally, understand that human memory is fallible. We are not perfect recorders of events, but rather active reconstructors, constantly rewriting our past to fit our present needs. Memories are influenced by emotions, biases, and suggestions. They are not objective truths, but subjective interpretations. This means that eyewitness testimony is often unreliable, and that historical accounts are always subject to revision. Be skeptical of all narratives, including your own. Question the sources, challenge the assumptions, and seek out multiple perspectives. The truth is rarely simple, and it is often hidden beneath layers of distortion and deception. The key is to recognize these inherent frailties in yourself and others, not to judge them, but to understand them. This understanding is not an end in itself, but a tool, a weapon, a key to unlocking the secrets of human behavior. It is the foundation upon which you build your own strength, your own resilience, your own power. Observe without sentimentality, analyze without prejudice, and act with ruthless efficiency. The world is a dangerous place, and only the prepared survive. Consider the case of the ambitious CEO, a man named Alistair, who clawed his way to the top of a multinational corporation. Alistair understood, perhaps instinctively, the frailties of human nature. He saw the yearning for approval in his subordinates, the fear of failure in his peers, and the susceptibility to flattery in his superiors. He used this knowledge not to build a collaborative environment, but to construct a personal fiefdom. Alistair cultivated an image of unwavering competence and decisive leadership. He was always the first to arrive and the last to leave, projecting an aura of tireless dedication. This was partly genuine, driven by his own ambition, but it was also a calculated performance designed to impress those around him. He knew that people were drawn to perceived strength, and he meticulously crafted the illusion of invincibility. Alistair mastered the art of selective vulnerability. He would occasionally reveal minor flaws or past mistakes, not to genuinely connect with others, but to appear relatable and human. These carefully chosen admissions were always framed in a way that ultimately highlighted his resilience and determination. For example, he might recount a past business failure, but then emphasize how he learned from the experience and emerged stronger than before. This carefully constructed narrative served to deflect any deeper scrutiny of his character or competence. Alistair understood that people are more likely to trust someone who appears to be fallible, but only to a certain extent. Too much vulnerability would be seen as weakness, while none at all would be perceived as arrogance. He walked this fine line with practiced ease. Crucially, Alistair exploited the inherent human desire for belonging. He created an inner circle of loyalists, carefully selected individuals who were either genuinely devoted to him or heavily dependent on his patronage. He showered these individuals with praise and rewards, making them feel valued and important. In return, they provided him with unwavering support and served as his eyes and ears within the organization. Anyone who dared to criticize Alistair or challenge his authority was quickly ostracized or removed from their position. Alistair fostered a culture of fear and paranoia, where dissent was met with swift and merciless retribution. This created a chilling effect throughout the company, discouraging anyone from questioning his decisions. Alistair also understood the power of narrative control. He was a master of public relations, carefully managing his image and shaping the perception of his company. He cultivated relationships with influential journalists and opinion leaders, ensuring that his version of events was always the one that reached the public. When faced with criticism or controversy, he would skillfully deflect blame, often scapegoating others or shifting the focus to a more positive narrative. He understood that people are more likely to believe what they want to believe, and he expertly manipulated public opinion to his advantage. Furthermore, Alastair recognized the limitations of human memory. He understood that people tend to remember events in a way that confirms their existing beliefs and biases. He used this knowledge to his advantage by selectively presenting information and subtly distorting the truth. He would often rewrite history to suit his own purposes, exaggerating his accomplishments and minimizing his failures. Over time, his carefully crafted narrative became the accepted version of reality, even if it bore little resemblance to the actual events. Alastair's ascent was not built on genuine merit or ethical leadership, but on a cold and calculated manipulation of human frailties. He understood the inherent weaknesses in others and exploited them without remorse. His story serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of unchecked ambition and the seductive power of manipulation. It is a cautionary tale about the importance of critical thinking, skepticism, and a deep understanding of human nature. In the end, Alastair's empire crumbled, not because of a single fatal mistake, but because the very foundations upon which it was built were inherently unstable. Trust erodes, fear breeds resentment, and the truth, however distorted, eventually finds a way to surface. His carefully constructed image shattered, revealing the ruthless and calculating individual beneath. His loyalists abandoned him, his critics emerged from the shadows, and his legacy was forever tarnished. Alastair's story is not unique. It is a recurring pattern throughout history, a testament to the enduring power of human frailty and the devastating consequences of its exploitation. The lesson is not to condemn Alastair, but to understand him, to learn from his mistakes, and to recognize the vulnerabilities that made him possible. Only then can you protect yourself from becoming a victim, or perhaps more importantly, from becoming an Alastair yourself. The trap lies in believing that strength is solely defined by outward displays of force or unwavering confidence. True strength resides in the ability to perceive and understand the weaknesses within oneself and others. The frailties of human nature are not flaws to be ignored or dismissed, but rather fundamental aspects of the human condition that must be acknowledged and accounted for. The weak, however, often succumb to denial, blinded by ego and a desperate need for validation. They project an image of invincibility, masking their insecurities with arrogance and aggression. This facade is easily penetrated by those who possess genuine insight and strategic acumen. The skilled manipulator understands that beneath the surface of bravado lies a deep-seated fear of exposure, a vulnerability that can be exploited with precision. They observe, analyze, and identify the specific insecurities that drive an individual's behavior. What hidden anxieties fuel their ambition? What past traumas shape their present actions? What desperate needs cloud their judgment? Once these vulnerabilities are identified, they can be leveraged to control and influence the individual's decisions. The weak are predictable. Their actions are dictated by their emotions, their desires, and their fears. They react instead of strategizing, allowing themselves to be manipulated like puppets on a string. They crave approval, seek validation, and fear rejection. These desires become levers of control in the hands of the unscrupulous. Flattery, promises, and veiled threats become powerful tools for shaping their behavior. The weak often fall prey to the illusion of control. They believe they are acting according to their own free will, unaware that their choices are being subtly guided by external forces. They are easily led astray by charismatic figures who promise them power, wealth, or recognition. They sacrifice their principles, their integrity, and their long-term goals in pursuit of short-term gains. They are pawns in a larger game, blindly serving the interests of those who manipulate them. The antidote to this trap is self-awareness. It is the ability to honestly assess one's own strengths and weaknesses, to recognize the emotions that drive one's actions, and to resist the urge for instant gratification. It requires a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about oneself, to acknowledge one's vulnerabilities, and to develop a deep understanding of human nature. This self-knowledge becomes a shield against manipulation, a source of inner strength, and a foundation for ethical decision-making. It allows one to see through the facades of others, to recognize their hidden motives, and to resist their attempts at control. The truly strong are not those who are immune to temptation or impervious to fear. They are those who understand their own frailties and strive to overcome them. They are those who act with integrity, guided by principles, and committed to a long-term vision. They are not easily swayed by flattery or threats, but rather remain steadfast in their pursuit of truth and justice. The path to strength is not a journey of self-denial or suppression, but rather a process of self-discovery and self-acceptance. It is about embracing one's humanity with all its imperfections and vulnerabilities, and using that knowledge to become a more resilient, more compassionate, and more effective individual. The weak attempt to hide their flaws. The strong confront them. The truly powerful transform them. The Machiavellian approach to human frailty begins with a ruthless assessment of others. It is not enough to simply recognize that people are flawed. One must understand the specific nature of those flaws and how they can be exploited. Vanity, insecurity, impulsiveness, these are not abstract concepts, but levers to be manipulated. Observe the subtle cues that betray a person's deepest desires and fears. Notice the way they react to praise and criticism, the topics they avoid, the people they seek to impress. Every interaction is a data point, revealing the inner workings of their psyche. This understanding is not an end in itself, but a tool for achieving one's own objectives. Influence is built upon the foundation of psychological insight. To persuade, you must appeal to a person's self-interest, to their longing for recognition, to their dread of failure. Learn to craft your message in a way that resonates with their individual vulnerabilities. Exploit their weaknesses, but do so with subtlety and finesse. Never let them suspect that they are being manipulated. Appear to be acting in their best interest, even as you guide them toward your desired outcome. Deception is a necessary instrument. Honesty is a luxury that can be afforded only when it serves your purpose. Cultivate a mask of sincerity and trustworthiness while concealing your true intentions. Project an image of competence and confidence, even if you harbor doubts. People are drawn to strength and repelled by weakness. Appear decisive, even when uncertain. Take calculated risks, but always maintain a facade of control. The Machiavellian operator understands the power of appearances. They know that perception is often more important than reality. They are masters of impression management, carefully crafting their public persona to project an image of authority and charisma. They understand that people are more likely to follow those who appear to be in control, even if that control is an illusion. The manipulation of emotions is also vital. Fear, anger, and desire can be powerful motivators. Learn to evoke these emotions in others, and you can control their actions. Use fear to instill obedience, anger to incite conflict, and desire to create dependence. But be careful not to overplay your hand. Emotions are volatile and unpredictable. Miscalculate and you could lose control of the situation. Play on people's expectations. Most individuals are creatures of habit, predictable in their thoughts and actions. Learn to anticipate their responses and you can steer them in any direction you choose. Disrupt their routines, challenge their assumptions, and exploit their cognitive biases. By understanding how people think, you can control what they think. Master the art of strategic ambiguity. Speak in vague terms, leaving room for interpretation. This allows you to adapt your message to different audiences and to avoid committing to any specific course of action. Ambiguity also creates uncertainty, which can be used to manipulate others. People are more likely to trust those who appear to know what they are doing, even if they do not. Plant seeds of doubt in the minds of your rivals. Undermine their confidence, question their motives, and expose their vulnerabilities. A weakened opponent is easier to defeat. Isolate your targets. Cut them off from their support networks and they will become more vulnerable to your influence. Create rivalries and divisions among your enemies so that they fight each other instead of you. Never underestimate the power of alliances. Surround yourself with loyal followers and use them to advance your agenda, but be careful not to become too dependent on others. Ultimately, you must rely on your own skills and judgment. Understand that human frailty is not just a weakness to be exploited, but also a reflection of your own potential for failure. The same flaws that you see in others exist within yourself. Vanity, insecurity, impulsiveness, these are universal human traits. The key to mastering the Machiavellian approach is to acknowledge your own weaknesses and to develop strategies for overcoming them. Control your emotions, discipline your impulses, and never let your ego cloud your judgment. Cultivate self-awareness and use it to anticipate your own reactions in different situations. The ability to understand and control yourself is the foundation for controlling others. Recognize that power is a double-edged sword. It can corrupt and destroy if not wielded with wisdom and restraint. Use your power responsibly and never abuse it for personal gain. The true Machiavellian operator is not a tyrant, but a strategist. They understand that the most effective way to achieve their goals is through cooperation and persuasion, not coercion and force. They are skilled negotiators, adept at finding common ground and building consensus. They understand that long-term success requires building strong relationships and maintaining a reputation for integrity. The focus is always the achievement of objectives, detached from moral considerations. It's about analyzing situations, identifying vulnerabilities, and applying the appropriate strategy to maximize one's advantage. It's a continuous process of observation, calculation, and manipulation. The ultimate goal is to achieve and maintain control, navigating the complexities of human nature with cold, strategic precision. One must also learn